Francis Ford Coppola, the man behind The Godfather, has returned to the director's chair after years of anticipation with Megalopolis. You'd think with a name like his, this movie would have all the right elements to be a masterpiece. Unfortunately, it's anything but.
What the fuck is this piece of shit?
Let's start with the visuals because, on paper, they sound promising. Coppola building a futuristic, utopian city. You'd expect an awe-inspiring aesthetic with creative world building. Instead, we get a confusing, overly stylized jumble of CGI that looks half-finished. There's no coherence to the city's design, and it feels like a blend of every other sci-fi film you've seen, but with none of the charm. The sets lack immersion and don't make you feel like you're in a real lived-in world. Instead, it's as if the film is trying to impress you with how futuristic it looks, without ever letting you settle into the environment. The result is a city that feels fake, distant, and frustratingly empty. Now, let's talk about the characters, and this is where Megalopolis truly falls apart. The main character, Cesar Catilina, is supposed to be a revolutionary visionary, but instead, he comes across as an unlikable, narcissistic bore. The movie never lets you care about his dreams or ambitions because he feels more like a caricature of a genius than an actual person. His ability to stop time comes off as a ridiculous gimmick that adds nothing to the story and only serves to pull you further out of the narrative. Speaking of caricatures, the rest of the cast isn't much better. While Platinum, Hamilton Crassus III, these names are laughably bad and feel like they are from a bad satire, but the film treats them with dead seriousness. The dialogue is clunky and filled with nonsensical monologues that feel more like forced philosophical statements than natural conversations between people. This movie is a slog. At nearly 3 hours long, Megalopolis drags on with bloated subplots and melodramatic moments that don't contribute anything meaningful to the story. The relationship between Caesar and Cicero's daughter, Julia, feels forced and lacks chemistry. The entire subplot about the death of Caesar's wife could have been compelling, but instead serves as a poorly executed and confusing mess that never gets the weight it deserves. On top of that, there's a bizarre shift in tone halfway through the movie. The first half tries to present some grand, philosophical ideas about society and progress, but the second half devolves into a chaotic mix of riots, assassinations, and corporate takeovers. It's like the film couldn't decide what it wanted to be: a political thriller, a dystopian love story, a commentary on modern society. The end result is a disjointed experience that leaves you scratching your head. Coppola clearly aimed to tackle big themes like the future of society, power struggles, and morality, but the execution is completely muddled. It's as if the film is trying to say everything all at once without ever settling on a coherent message. By the time Caesar gives his final speech about building a better future, you're so lost and disconnected from the plot that the words feel hollow and meaningless. The film wants to provoke thought and debate, but it's so wrapped up in its own self-importance that it fails to connect emotionally. There's no subtlety here. Everything is heavy-handed and on the nose. And by the end, you're left wondering what the point of it all was. Francis Ford Coppola's Megalopolis is a cinematic disaster that tries to be profound but falls flat on its face. With laughable characters, disjointed plot lines, and a visual style that's more distracting than impressive, this film will go down as one of the year's biggest disappointments. It's a shame because the premise had so much potential, but what we are left with is an overlong, self-indulgent mess that fails on almost every level. If you're a fan of Coppola's classics, I urge you to avoid Megalopolis. It's a film that tries to reach for the stars but barely gets off the ground. Make sure to like and subscribe if you enjoyed this video, and I will see you in the next one.